Hi, everybody. This is Jason.
This is Pete.
And this is the Lost Legions podcast. And what are we doing today, Pete?
We're here to talk about the biggest change to the Horus Heresy that no one is talking about. And that's terrain.
Our shirts?
Shirts, yeah. Yeah, you can buy yourself a shirt for $19.99. No, yeah. Terrain. I think it's going to be the biggest change that no one's talking about it from what I can tell, from what I can see.
So you were super excited about this. you Pete like tracked me down when I was on a train. He was like, "You need to read this." One of the leaks came out, and he's very excited about it. And after he went through it with me, I think I agree with him. I think it's gonna actually change the game quite a bit.
We agree.
And I know this is like no one's more shocked than the two of us.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, we do agree on something. Why don't you take everybody through the terrain changes and what you think, and then I can comment on it.
Yeah, let's bring it up. I'm not expecting you to read that watching us. It's more the case that we can just reference it together. So they're breaking down the way that terrain works with specifying how area terrain is going to work. So terrain in 2nd edition has been a little bit lackluster compared to 1st edition. The cover saves got taken down a notch, didn't they, Jay? So ruins went
they were a little
cover save to 5 up. Yeah. Which is...
I didn't mind the ruins. It was the other things that was like trees and everything else was a 6, and like vehicles only got a 6, and sometimes it just felt really weird where it was like, oh, I can just see the edge of the back of your vehicle. Up 6 up cover save. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, it's changed quite a bit. So this is specifically for the area terrain. So area terrain is now going to be in 3 sections, and light area terrain, medium area terrain, and heavy area terrain. And I think this leads more into, if you remember, we were reading about like the mission setup stuff the other day, Jay, and it said like you should use 4 pieces of terrain this side and 2 pieces of terrain this side. And I thought it's a bit odd, but I think that's starting to make more sense for what they think is a reasonable amount of terrain. Because the changes to terrain, so going through it, so light area terrain gives you a 6 up cover save. Okay, so this will be, small woods, barbed wire pieces, maybe a few oil drums, all that sort of stuff, right? Medium area terrain gives you a 5 up cover save, so very similar to ruins now. And heavy area terrain gives you a 4 up cover save. So we don't have 4 up cover saves currently, do we, in the game? I don't think we do.
Not off the top of my head. No. In 2.0.
Yeah. So that's an improvement or a change there, whichever way you look at it. Now, that's not just the only changes. The main part comes into how these pieces of terrain are treated then. So light area terrain, you can always draw a line of sight through it. Medium area terrain, you can only ever draw into it, line of sight into it by 3 inches and also out of it by 3 inches. So let's say you've got a ruin building on a little MDF base and it's like 8 inches by 8 inches. You no longer can see through that piece of terrain to an enemy unit the other side, or even an enemy unit 3 inches or more behind.
So even all these pieces of terrains that we all have, like that have all the windows everywhere.
Yeah.
If it's deeper than 3 inches, you won't be able to shoot through it now. Because I think the problem now is that you could just shoot right through buildings with windows. Like you could just see, I see your model through this giant like warehouse. And I was doing it this weekend. Like I was shooting models through it must have been 8 to 12 inches. Like it was fucking huge. And the guy was like, really? And I'm like, you could very clearly see his models like on the other side of the windows. And now you couldn't. Yeah.
There's no ambiguity anymore, right? There's no feels bad for either player. There's no 1, 2, 3, I can see it, 4, 5, 6, you can't, doing a roll off or anything like that. It's just the rules are, if the piece of terrain, if you're drawing line of sight through medium area terrain and the distance to go through it is 3 inches or more, or over 3 inches rather, you cannot draw a line of sight. And then just to reiterate, it's the same. So if you have a unit in that terrain and they are 4 inches away from the edge, you cannot see them. But they can also not see out. So there's a plus and minus to it.
what they're doing is putting abstraction back in the rules.
Yeah.
I think, and I actually think it works better for the game. I mean, people might not like it for their immersion on some things, but again, like I think for the game, the health of the game, and actually playing the game, it makes a lot more sense and has a lot less feel bad. And like now, you're not gonna. I have a feeling you're not gonna need a billion pieces of terrain. Like for example, the event we were at was very terrain heavy, and I don't think you're gonna need as many pieces of terrain as like the event had, because now everything is potentially line of sight blocking if you call it a medium, you know, area
Everything's
terrain.
area terrain. Yeah, when
Yeah.
you don't have to. You do have like odd scatter pieces, and I can't remember what else they call them referenced over here. Just generic battlefield terrain and other things and bits and bobs. Open terrain, that's what it's called. So that there are different pieces that you can have. But yeah, this is gonna be a big change. Then heavy area terrain, the one that gives you the 4-up cover save, you can never draw line of sight into it, and you can never draw line of sight out of it. So if you are in heavy area terrain, let me just make sure I'm getting that right. Heavy area terrain always blocks line of sight. Models within heavy area terrain cannot ever draw line of sight to any other models, and models outside of heavy area terrain cannot draw line of sight to models within heavy area terrain. Yeah. So
I'm guessing only indirect fire and barrage and stuff will be able to hit people inside the terrain.
Yeah, or if you're all fighting within, if there's 2 units within the same piece of heavy area terrain. That's how I understand that, right?
Okay.
And that's when you...
Oh, because you can't draw a line of sight out and you can't draw a line of sight in, but if you go into the bunker,
if you're all
you can shoot the guys in the bunker.
Yeah. So you might want to play with maybe one piece of that terrain and maybe in the center, or, like a thematic building. I think that's the idea behind it, right? It's designed to be like the main building or something along those lines. You wouldn't want to play with loads of that for sure, because it'd be a bit crazy.
It's going into the command center and getting the guy, the general.
Yeah. But there's a whole set of rules for buildings as well, so I don't know. But yeah, anyway, you're completely right. So this is going to make a huge change. You're right. You won't need half as much of the terrain, or I don't know. How would you feel like playing with only like 4 or 5 pieces of terrain on the board? I'm not sure.
Depends on how much scatter terrain you have as well, right? Like, or what do they call it? Open terrain,
Open
right?
terrain.
Like,
yeah.
It depends on how big the pieces are. But I think that this also means that like people with the really cool buildings, like so verticality is going to mean something now, because a lot of times those buildings have windows and you could just see right through them.
Yeah.
And now if you play it like, a lot of times like there'll be an L shape, right? Or like a wedge. And a lot of time if you play it as, the 2 walls draw a line and you can't go 3 inches through. I think a lot of these things will be line of sight blocking and a lot higher. So I think it'll give a lot more tactical maneuvering. I think it'll make cover fun because you'll be running to like shoot out of it. Sometimes maybe you won't make the 3 inches, so you'll be like, no, I can't see anything, but they can't see me. I think it's cool.
I think it's going to change the way that you build lists as well. If there's now going to be 4 to 6 pieces of line of sight blocking terrain, like big-ish pieces, then maneuverability is going to be more important, right? Like having transports and stuff, quite possibly. Like, driving all the way through a big piece of terrain and then popping out the other side will have a different play.
I think you're going to have less like conversion beamer dreads or predators sitting at the corners.
Drawing
like,
line of sight through like 4
across.
pieces of terrain and seeing part of a hull of a tank in the corner. Yeah.
Snipers with 72-inch range are not going to be able to just shoot across the table.
Yeah, unless they have a special rule. But yeah, no, you're quite right. I don't know. They will definitely not have a special rule that says they ignore line of sight blocking terrain. But yes.
It makes things like the Daredeo missile launcher really cool because it's in effect fire. Like, I think it opens a lot more interesting play.
Yeah. So I think, maneuverability is going to be pretty important. I'm excited to see how this works. Let us know what you think. Anything else you want to add to this quick rant about terrain?
No, I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool that you called this out. I was excited that you got super excited about it. Like, I've seen you get more and more excited about 3.0 as it's coming up. And like, I like laughed when you were like, well, I need to talk to you about terrain. And I'm like, you do? And you're like, it'll change everything. And then like you explained it to me and I read it and I'm like, oh, you're right. This actually really will change the game a lot. So
Yeah.
good call on that, Pete. And yeah, can't wait to see this on the table and see how it acts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers. Catch you later.